Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Me. In my new series, Year 2020 Rick Miracle Report, number 9. Just moving along here in January 2020. Today's the 25th. So I'm kind of bouncing around on different topics, things that I think that are important. Going back to the Contact magazine, the Phoenix Project, British mind control plot to overthrow America, Tavistock, Freemasonry, Nazis, MK Ultra. What do those 4 words have in common? Tavistock, Freemasonry, Nazis, MK Ultra. Tavistock is an institute over there in Britain, created to pretty much control what people think, mind control. Freemasonry has lodges all over the world, and they are the tools and instruments to provide the people with the training into the occultism, satanic, luciferic philosophy, anti-Christian, as Albert Pike, the leader of the Freemasons, in the 1860s during the war between the North and the South said. And of course the Nazis, who were into the occult, and MK Ultra, a secret group bent on mind control to overthrow America, because America is the last safe haven of the world, one of the places they need to take down. And of course, as we've all seen, they need to take down Iran, and because Venezuela nationalized the oil and mineral wealth, I think they have one of the hugest gold resources in the world. So these Illuminati elite, you can see this picture behind me here, is one of their many symbols on this picture. The columns on the left and the right, the all-seeing eye on the back of the dollar bill, the serpent, the cross with the circle around it, meaning a divine serpent, and the eye, it's a reptilian eye. So apparently this has everything to do with the Kabbalah and the Zionists and their religious books, Zohar, Talmud, Rosicrucians, Council of Foreign Relation, Club of Rome, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Rosicrucians, Golden Dawn, witchcraft organizations everywhere. So they have to take down America. And this goes back hundreds of years, as I've said in many videos. And reading from this Contact magazine, which was started as The Liberator in 1990, and a couple years later there was some political turmoil within the organization, so the members were forced out and went and created the Contact magazine from the name The Liberator, and existed from 1990 to 1999, 10 years, and created a lot of these Phoenix journals. You can go online and find them, and you can go to 4winds10.com and just look up the Phoenix Journal, and you can find other websites with these things free PDF. So hundreds and hundreds, maybe over 1,000 or 2,000, because they were publishing these weekly, these magazines, and some of them are only 10, 12, 15 pages thick. Some of them are like this one is 95 pages thick. But I want to go back in time a little bit on this video, because it is all connected. During the 1700s is when they really took control, and the people into the Kabbalah cult, magicians and witches and etc., formed a group called the Illuminati, symbols behind me, and the Illuminati took over the Freemasonic lodges all over the world and created many sister and brother organizations, brotherhoods. And these people took control of the banking system and governments and pretty much control everything. And they are bent on destroying Christianity and other religious beliefs, and they are bent on a global world order. And like I said, it goes back to the 1700s. For example, during the 15 and 1600s, the Jewish people, they weren't called Jews, they were people, Hebrews, into the Kabbalah. They were banished from Spain. They had the Inquisition. People were burnt at the stake. Banished from France, banished from Britain, banished from countries all over Europe. And they went to Northern Europe, up in the Scotland area, Ireland area. And some of them went west to the Ukraine and Georgia area, just this side of Russia. And one of the reasons they went out west, or out east, I should say, East Europe, was the Khazarians were there, and they had converted to this Jewish religion, but there was no word Jew back then. This Hebrew Talmudic witchcraft religion, back in around the year 1000 or earlier, a whole nation, the size almost of Russia, converted to this Kabbalah witchcraft religion. And so when the now called Jewish people were forced out of all those countries, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, Britain, etc., they found safe haven out there in the Georgia, Ukraine area, Poland area, changed those whole areas for the worse, and up north in Scotland. So they were banished from all of those areas. Just to kind of put some context here, in the 15 and 1600s, 400 or 500 years ago. Anyways, in the late 1600s, through manipulation and money control, bribery, etc., they managed to bring about a revolution in Britain and in France, and they had the British king and the French king beheaded. A lot of people know about this. They took over the governments in the 16th and 17th centuries. 300 and 400 years ago. And ever since then, they've been toppling other countries, taking over control of those countries in the banking system for the past 300 years. No doubt. That's what happened. Apparently, the Rothschilds, one of the leading families in these witchcraft cults, satanic cults, pretty much controls all the major banks all over the world. I think they only do not control 3 of them, and one of them is Iran. The other, I think, is Cuba, etc. And so they control the banks control the leaders, and they're all into this serpent cult. And they plan on fulfilling a biblical prophecy and depopulating the planet. They want to control the world. They believe the world belongs to them. And they're using advanced technologies, surveillance systems, and other things to help secure their control. And apparently they'll use anything: viruses, plagues, wars, terrorism, economic destruction. They have many ways to punish nations, as we've seen. But let me get back to this Contact magazine. This is the 1994 Contact magazine, November 15th. And I'm gonna continue where I left off on this plot to overthrow America, where I was reading. And again, it's just a conversation. Take some notes, look it up. But the highlighted paragraph here is 1909 to 1913, the build-up to World War I. And I've said this over and over again. World War I and World War II were tools after the revolution in Britain and France, and they had a revolution in Russia, and they had a big revolution in China, and millions and untold millions of people were killed, bringing about this communist type of control of the world. So 1909, 1913. So let's talk about the John Rockefeller family. Created the family-run Rockefeller Foundation in parallel with the birth of the British-inspired Federal Reserve, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, wound up creating the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue Service and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In 1909 to 1913 and subsequent years, this is prior to World War I, Rockefeller transferred blocks of the family-owned Standard Oil Company worth more than $300 million to the account of the foundation under its trustees, who were the family members and their employees. And not too long ago, they had a Rockefeller vice president here in the United States. And I think David Rockefeller recently died. So these families are alive and well, and this is some of their symbols behind me. Thus was established a global instrument for radical social change, where we heard this, using American money and British strategy. So they control the Federal Reserve, they control the money, they control our politicians, they control our country, they're using our military as spearheading the war and destruction efforts all over the world. That's the United States. And of course, there's a lot of people who would object to that, and they plan on completing their mission and eliminating those people who would be a threat to the global world order. Back to this article. John D. Rockefeller had begun his oil business in the 1860s with British capital. So during the Civil War between the North and the South in the United States, they used British capital to create these huge oil companies, which wound up controlling everything in the money. The family's relationship to the British Empire a half-century later was centered in the person of John D's brother, William Rockefeller, the president of Standard Oil of New York, later Mobil, and the founder of National City Bank, later Citibank. In 1911, Brother Wilhelm, employed in private capacity through his elite social club, a high-ranking British secret intelligence service officer named Claude Danzy, as the United States prepared to ally itself in World War I with its old enemy Britain, Danzy personally reorganized the U.S. Army Intelligence Service into an adjunct of the British Secret Service. So they aligned the British Secret Service with the American Intelligence Service. So it was the British money regaining a foothold back into the United States after we declared our independence in 1776. Weirdly enough, 1776 is the same year that the Illuminati was created by the Rothschilds. Again, a member of the royal bloodline of this Illuminati family, the bloodline of these satanic cults. Danzy's loyal U.S. follower, General Marlborough Churchill, a distant relative of the Britain's Winston Churchill, soon became director of the U.S. military intelligence. So the Churchill family is part of these satanic cult organization secret societies. So apparently we had a Marlborough Churchill in charge of the military here in the United States, with Winston Churchill over there in Europe, taking matters into his own hands before World War I, sending a fleet of ships through the North Sea to attack Germany. Germany didn't have a choice. Germany didn't want a war. But the problem was Germany and the surrounding countries had united into like a United States. Hungary, Romania, they were all joining forces together like a trading bloc, like they use right now, the North Pacific Agreement, the NAFTA and all that stuff. So they did that, and they were threatening British world control. And remember, after the 1600s, when the Hebrews, Kabbalah, serpent cult people were banished and exiled, and those who wouldn't leave were burnt at the stake, when they gained re-entry into Britain and France by revolutions and beheading the kings of those countries, later on became the other revolutions all over the world, including these people from my research were even instigators in the war between the North and the South in the United States. So after World War I, General Churchill headed up the Black Chamber, a New York-based espionage group serving the State Department and the U.S. Army and private New York financiers loyal to Great Britain. This same General Churchill, here in the United States, would soon launch a medical research organization, the Mercy Foundation, for the Rockefeller and British intelligence here in the United States. Unbelievable. 1920, the pre-Hitler era in Germany. So why was Hitler put in power? After Germany lost World War I and was severely punished, and so much so it was a super depression and lots of people dying of starvation in the German areas. So of course they were looking for a leader, and they were spoon-fed Hitler, who was part of the serpent cult, into the occult research. He spent a lot of time at the libraries. He'd even visited Britain, according to my research, and was part of these secret societies. There's plenty of evidence that the Hitler regime was seriously into the occult, communicating with some kind of beings called Vril, and traveling all over the world, including Antarctica, Himalayan mountains, Shambhala, trying to get secret information, getting back to the serpent peoples, apparently secretly located in different parts of this planet, that they would now have us believe are UFOs and aliens. So the 1920, the pre-Hitler era in Germany, and again, you can go on the internet, look up the Phoenix Project, the Phoenix journals, contact magazines. I found them all and I downloaded them, and all free PDF. And this is just one document out of hundreds and hundreds, 1,000 or 2,000, I don't know. Quite a few. Took me a week or so just to get the things downloaded and organized. But it's an interesting conversation, and it gives somebody an accurate picture of what happened in our world back then. And apparently, you know, a fulfillment of prophecy, what's going to happen soon. This is the year 2020, January 25th. And there's all kinds of weird things happening all over the planet. Apparently, the coronavirus is loose right now, and the World Health Organization is about ready to instigate some kind of declare some kind of world pandemic, and people will have to take vaccines, which are controlled by the elite, even the Bill Gates Foundation. So if they have the patents for these vaccines, you know, they'll make tons of money, and they probably seeded the vaccine, possibly. So it seems, and I'm not the only one saying this. But back to this article. Again, this stuff, if I read it, it gives us a cause for a conversation and other things to think about. The Rockefeller Foundation poured money into the occupied German Republic for a medical specialty known as psychiatric genetics. So even back here in the 20s, they were into mind control and genetic manipulation and genetics control, talking about eugenics, getting rid of people who were considered to have a weaker DNA, human biological capabilities, mental. This field applied to psychiatry the concept of eugenics, otherwise known as race purification, race hygiene, race betterment, developed in London's Galton Laboratories and its offshoot eugenics societies in England and America. So back since the 1920s, these elites into the serpent cult, the symbols behind me, have been into genetic manipulation of the DNA and trying to create a new type of human. Apparently, they have a lot of secret laboratories underground and hidden places, and are even creating types of monsters like gray aliens, and using DNA and developing reptilian beings. And they're using these fake aliens to kind of freak out people and make people believe that they're coming from other planets. Some of them here to save us, or we'll have to unite all over the world to defend ourselves from these alien attackers. They would have us believe. But let me read from this, and you think about it. You put two and two together. The Rockefeller Foundation created and foundation executives, therefore, continuously directed the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute of Psychiatry in Munich, Germany. Before Rockefeller's sponsorship, it was known as the Kruppien Institute and the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute of Anthropology, the study of human development, and eugenics and human heredity. So these elites into this witchcraft organization are seriously into getting samples of all of our DNAs and keeping that stuff on file and weeding out the unwanted DNA. So I suspect there's probably some kind of a special DNA to these satanic serpent cult people, which is why they keep themselves separate from the rest of us throughout history, and their religious practices were outrageous to the other citizens. Hence all the people into the Kabbalah, Hebrew magician witchcraft cults all over France, Britain, Italy, Spain were exiled and banished. And then they managed to get back in and have the revolutions in Britain and France and have the kings beheaded. You can look up the pictures and stories on all this. So the serpent people got back into those countries and took control and had the kings executed and a lot of other people executed using revolutions, getting the people to rise up against their leaders, telling them that they were being mistreated and they would be better off if they went along with the revolution. And in all these cases, even after 9/11 with all those countries being destroyed in the Middle East, it never gets better for the little people, you and me. The Rockefellers' chief in both of these institutions was the fascist Swiss psychiatrist Ernst Rudin, assisted by his protege Rockefeller functionaries Ottmar Farah von Wuschow and Franz Kellmann. The question should be here, haven't we read from Hanton, etc. before? Yes, indeed. So this information has been in the Contact magazines many times. So back to this conversation. A British medical historian friendly to the Rockefellers recently explained how the family was introduced into this field in Germany. So not only do they control the banking systems, the militaries, but the hospitals and psychiatry, and now, of course, with 5G and artificial intelligence, wow, they have control. And the tools to just probably take people out wherever they want, microwave them, kill them, destroy them, empty their bank accounts, discredit them, set them up, arrest them, assassinate them, and there's been enough of that going on. The Rockefeller Foundation and German Biomedical Sciences, 1920 to 1940, Educational Philanthropy to International Science Policy by Paul Wilding in the book Science, Politics, and the Public Good. Do you believe that? Science, Politics, and the Public Good. Essays in honor of Margaret Growing, London, Macmillan Press. Macmillan Press, 1988. Macmillan Press also published editions of the Encyclopedia Judaica that I collect. And all the information is in those Encyclopedia Judaica. I made a lot of videos on those in my Freemasonry and Satanism book reviews. And I will continue to pursue those encyclopedias and share information I learn. The Foundation's German centers combine the search for organic signs of mental illness with eugenic projects. So they do have Christians demonized these days, calling them haters because they're opposed to the pansexual propaganda promoted by the New Age enthusiast, part of the satanic cults. So it's a do as thou wilt philosophy, trying to override and toss out the Ten Commandments from God. Again, fulfilling some biblical prophecy, and apparently a lot of people are falling for it. Even on the back of the dollar bill is the eye, and the Washington, D.C. street plan is in the shape of a big owl, Moloch, the demon that they feed sacrifices to, which in the Bible in Jeremiah is the reason why God commanded King Nebuchadnezzar from Babylonia to go down and destroy Judea, destroy the temple, because they were sacrificing their sons and daughters to the demon god Baal and Moloch. And then they rebuilt the temple 70 years later, and 500 years later they had to destroy it again. And now they're working to rebuild the temple for the third time, and it seems this satanic cult has control over the world. The serpent people have control over the world. The serpent people are bringing us chemtrails, sky spraying, 5G, artificial intelligence, 911, World War I, World War II, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, British Revolution, Chinese Revolution, Asian Revolution, countries all over the world. They now control on all the banking systems. And that's a lot to say. You have to study this stuff continuously for 15 years to be able to say all that. And be sure that it's true. You can get all these books and magazines and materials I've been sharing, and YouTube shutting down my channel in July in 2019, along with hundreds of other people, maybe thousands of channels all over the world, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and the newspapers are owned by them, deceiving us every day. The Crepiana Institute had initially been endowed with 11 million marks, contributed by Gustav Krupp, with von Bohlen and Halbach, head of the Krupp Steel and Arms family, and James Loeb, Paul Warburg's brother-in-law, an expatriate American of the Kuhn-Loeb banking family. If you've heard of these organizations, they're major investment groups controlling a lot of American and world resources today. Loeb mobilized his American Jewish friends to support the Institute, and they invited the foundation to reorganize and expand the Munich enterprise. Loeb also continued financing the Institute. So they're into mind control, and they're into assassinating people or setting them up, imprisoning them, ruining people who are getting in their way. Loeb's relatives, the Warburgs, owners of the Kuhn-Loeb Bank, were the intimate banking partners of William Rockefeller, together with, I'll turn the page here, they had set up the Harriman family in big business. The Harriman family, isn't that where George Bush Sr. got his start and his money, his first job? With the Harriman family, George Bush Sr., using capital supplied by the British royal family's personal banker, Sir Ernst Cassel. The three families, Rockefeller, Warburg, and Harriman, who brought us the Bush family too, together with the British Crown agencies, jointly sponsored much of the social engineering enterprise we shall describe here. The Rockefeller Foundation made an initial grant of $2.5 million in 1925 to the Psychiatric Institute in Munich, gave it $325,000 for a new building in 1928, and continuously sponsored the Institute and its Nazi chief Rudin through the Hitler era. So these Rockefeller's monies and mental institutions were behind Hitler, and they control our banking system here in America, like Bank America. The foundation paid for a 1930 to 1935 anthropological survey of the eugenics worthwhile population by Nazi eugenicist Rudin. So they do want to weed out those undesirable people, a good portion of the population. It's called depopulating the planet. And they have all kinds of weapons at their disposal, including biologicals and radioactive weapons and microwave weapons and mind control and propaganda in the newspapers, TV programs, and so much more. It's crazy. The propaganda for the pansexual New Age philosophy, anti-Christian efforts. You wouldn't believe it if you didn't be able to research it and look all this stuff up. You just wouldn't believe it. That was a whole bunch of money in those days, readers. And it also shows that the aristocrats perpetrated atrocities perpetrated on the prisoners in the war camps was actually sponsored and funded by the Rockefellers, Warburgs, and the Harrimans through the predominantly Rockefeller Foundation, the controlling banking system in the United States. I'm confident of this, that this information, that the elite Khazarian, again, where a lot of the Hebrews left when they were exiled from Spain and Britain and Italy and Germany and all those countries. The Khazarians was the country called Khazars in Khazaria, a landmass at that time north of the Mediterranean that was probably as big as Russia is today. And all those people, they were seriously barbaric. 1,500 years ago, the worst horrible people in the world, right next door neighbors to the other Asians. What were those people north of China? Genghis Khan came from and took his armies and ravaged all of Asia and Eastern Europe, killing people quite horribly. It was a horrible thing, viciously. And he said he was doing it in the name of God to punish the people. Genghis Khan were next door neighbors for the Khazars, all very barbaric people who later converted to the Kabbalah Jewish religion, which is part of the serpent religion, which now controls the U.S. and other countries all over the world, the banking systems, politicians, military services, TV programming, news programming. We're in trouble, so it seems. I'm confident that this information, that the elite Khazarian one world crowd would not like us inquiring minds to know. That's what it says here in this 1994 Contact magazine, that you can go look up the Phoenix Journals and the Liberator, 4winds10.com, and the 1994 November 15th issue. And there's so much more here to read, but I'm only doing short videos, 30 minutes. So thank you for listening to this video, and what do you think? Leave a comment. It's a crazy world we're in. What's happening next?